Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Gold Rush fans startled by shocking Succession reveal. Gold Rush Season 14, Episode 15 was titled Succession, and it aired on Discovery Channel on January 5. Now, an observant viewer found something startling, and they wondered if it was set up at Parker Schnabel's camp. Additionally, they felt shocked enough to wonder why it wasn't censored on the show. Gold Rush Season 14 episode Succession startled a viewer. The synopsis for the show wasn't really anything out of the ordinary for the mining show. According to Pop Design, the Beats family implodes trying to get the Paradise Hill trommel running. Parker starts sluicing Australia Creek and finds a big surprise. Rick makes an all-or-nothing decision to return to Rally Valley. As usual, it seems that the Beats family struggles to get the team working together, which impacts production. Rick Ness is back at Rally Valley and the heat is on for him to make or break. Edge-of-the-seat stuff for those people who love Gold Rush. Meanwhile, Parker Schnabel thinks about selling off expensive machinery if he doesn't meet his targets. Of course, it's all or nothing for him, which makes some people question the reality of the Discovery Channel show. Irrespective, there's no denying that something else shocked a viewer who shared a screenshot on Reddit. What shocked the viewer? The OP seemed taken aback by the screenshot because they didn't expect to see it on Discovery Channel. Perhaps it was missed in the edits because it only shows for a few seconds. In the discussion that followed, many people doubted that it was Parker's camp. Additionally, it became clear that plenty of miners fly the flag or display it in Canada. Therefore, seeing it in Gold Rush didn't shock the socks off everybody. I don't think that was over Parker's camp, but the family they visited in that episode. Parker keeps his yard much neater. He is also an American from Haines AK, but he is mining in the Yukon Territory in Canada. Why take the risk of pissing off any government agency? He's a much better businessman than that. I don't see why they would censor it no matter where it was. It's a common sentiment among miners whose lives Trudeau has made much harder. It isn't Parker's site. It is the McCauken's site. It isn't really profanity, because it is censored already. It wouldn't matter if it wasn't censored, because Gold Rush is not broadcast on regular TV, and on cable and streaming, it is usually rated TV-MA course language, providing of course you actually noticed what the flag said in the 9 secs out of 5,013 seconds of the show. The icy wind whipped through the desolate town of Dawson City as the once proud Klondike frontier clung desperately to its golden memories. The aging saloons groaned under the weight of their own history, and the few lanterns flickering in windows cast lonely shadows. Dawson was a town haunted by the past, and no one knew that better than Madeleine Maddie Cole, a devoted fan of both Gold Rush and Succession and an amateur sleuth with an insatiable curiosity. Maddie had always been fascinated by the tales of fortune hunters braving the wild Yukon for a chance to strike it rich. The feverish obsession of the gold miners mirrored the ruthless ambition of the Roy family, whose power struggles kept her glued to her screen every Sunday night. But never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that these two worlds might collide. It all began with a rumor, a whisper carried by the bitter northern wind, that a secret connection existed between the history of the Klondike Gold Rush and the fictional empire of Succession. Maddie dismissed it at first. How could a gritty reality show about modern-day gold mining in Alaska possibly tie into the Machiavellian power games of the Roys? Yet the rumor persisted, gnawing at her like a wolf at the edge of the forest. Unable to resist the lure of the mystery, Maddie decided to investigate. She packed her bags, booked a one-way ticket to Dawson City, and set off on an adventure that would test both her wits and her courage. Arriving in the frozen wilderness, she found herself immersed in a world both eerily familiar and unsettlingly foreign. The locals eyed her with suspicion, as though she were just another fortune seeker hoping to extract secrets buried deep in the Yukon soil. Her first stop was the Red Lantern Saloon, a relic of the Gold Rush era that had become a watering hole for both tourists and those who never quite escaped the fever. The place was alive with chatter, old-timers swapping ghost stories, prospectors talking up new claims, and in the darkest corners, whispered conversations about fortunes lost and found. It was there that Maddie overheard a name that sent shivers down her spine: Logan Roy. She nearly dropped her drink. Logan Roy? The name was as synonymous with *succession* as it was with media mogul power. But what did he have to do with the Klondike? Maddie's mind raced. Had the Roy family's wealth been seeded by a forgotten fortune, dug from the icy ground in this very town? Intrigued, she edged closer to the table where the conversation was happening. Two men hunched over their drinks, leaning in as they spoke in hushed tones. One was an old prospector with a tangled beard that seemed to contain half the Yukon. The other was a smooth-talking historian who looked entirely out of place in the rugged surroundings. "People think Logan's empire started with papers and deals," the historian said, his voice slick with the confidence of someone who knew the weight of his words. But the real foundation was something far more tangible: gold. Old Man Roy's grandfather was one of the lucky few to hit it big during the rush. And he didn't just strike gold, he hoarded it. Built a network of shadowy alliances with barons and tycoons who were every bit as ruthless as his descendants. The old prospector let out a low chuckle. "That's the part they don't teach you in history class, eh? The Roys were practically royalty up here in the north, controlling everything from claims to contracts. They say Logan's cunning came straight from his great-grandfather, who ruled this place like a king in exile." Maddie's pulse quickened. Could this really be true? Could the roots of the Roy dynasty be entwined with the fortunes made and lost in the Klondike? She needed more information. With the men deep in conversation, she quietly slipped out of the saloon and made her way to the town's archives. The archives were kept in an old church, a stone structure that seemed to carry the weight of every harsh winter it had endured. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and the scent of forgotten paper. Maddie spent hours poring over yellow documents, squinting at the faded ink and deciphering cryptic notes scribbled in the margins. Then she found it. An entry in an old ledger dated 1898 referenced a man named Robert Roy, a shadowy figure whose claim had produced an astonishing yield of gold. According to the records, Robert Roy had acquired the richest claim not through luck, but through a series of backhanded deals, intimidation, and outright theft. His rivals mysteriously vanished, and those who remained either joined him or were driven out of the territory. The ledger even hinted at ties to early media ventures, a precursor to the Roy family's later empire. Maddie felt a chill as the pieces began to fall into place. The ruthless ambition, the manipulation, the hunger for control. It had all been there from the start, passed down through the generations like a cursed heirloom. Logan Roy's media empire wasn't just built on power and influence, it was built on blood and gold. As she continued to dig, she uncovered more connections. There were cryptic letters that hinted at secret meetings between Robert Roy and other power brokers of the time. One letter even alluded to a mysterious organization called the Syndicate that controlled both the flow of information and wealth in the region, a precursor perhaps to the media conglomerates of the future. It was as if the Roy family's blueprint for domination had been drawn in the wilds of the Yukon, refined over decades, and then unleashed upon the world. Maddie was electrified by the discovery. The intertwining of fact and fiction, history and modern drama, sent her imagination spinning. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that the rugged individualism of the Klondike prospectors and the cutthroat tactics of the Roy family were two sides of the same coin. Both were stories of survival at any cost, where loyalty was a commodity and power was the ultimate prize. But as she packed up her notes and prepared to leave Dawson City, Maddie couldn't shake a sense of unease. She had always viewed *succession* as a dark satire, a twisted reflection of the elite. But now, with the knowledge that the Roy's origins were rooted in real, blood-soaked history, the show took on a more sinister edge. The lines between entertainment and reality blurred, and the gold rush seemed less like a distant chapter of history and more like an enduring legacy, a cycle of ambition, greed, and betrayal that spanned generations. As she boarded the small plane that would take her back to civilization, Maddie couldn't help but wonder if there were other secrets hidden in plain sight, stories waiting to be uncovered, connections waiting to be made. The frontier may have grown quieter over the years, but its ghosts still whispered, carrying tales of fortunes gained and lost, of empires rising and falling, and of families whose thirst for power could never be quenched. And perhaps, just perhaps, the Roy family story was only the beginning.